Kia ora and welcome to Point of View, View Magazine's monthly film podcast. My name is Tom Augustine. It's very nice to have you here with me today. We've got a great show coming up for you. Today we're talking with Katie Wolfe, the director of the excellent documentary, The Haka Party Incident. We're going to be talking about that film, the making of that film, which is now in cinemas. We're going to be looking at the new films that are coming out this month and also what's coming out on Rialto channel as well, so stick around. Katie Wolfe is a theatre maker and filmmaker, a really amazing one at that. Her new film, The Haka Party Incident, is in cinemas now. Kia ora, Katie, thank you so much for being with me today.
Kia ora, Tom. Thank you for inviting me on, and thank you for seeing the film and enjoying it.
I'm a really big fan of this film. Sort of have been shouting it from the rooftops as much as possible. It's a really special and really important film, and one that I think is arriving at a very important moment in New Zealand history. Talking about a very important moment in New Zealand history prior. Can you start, maybe for those who don't know, the story of the Haka Party Incident? What is this film about?
The Haka Party Incident is a documentary film based on an incident that happened in 1979. It documents a clash between the Auckland University Engineering Department, who had a tradition of dressing up in grass skirts and putting tattoos on their body and doing a very bad version of the haka as part of the Captain Day stunt. We have a new activist movement coming out of South Auckland in those that mid to late 70s. A group which was named after the incident, Aotearoa, came into their last practice to say, please stop doing this. A violent, I guess, altercation. I won't say violent, but it was more of a scuffle. Lasted 3 minutes. And from that, there was a huge fallout that you see played out in the documentary. But it was a pivotal point in the for New Zealand race relations, but the story was forgotten. And so part of my impetus to tell it is a forgotten story retold. Yeah.
And it seems like there was maybe some encouragement that it become forgotten.
I think so. Yeah, it's very interesting that because it was, of course, all over the paper at the time. I think you wrote in your review that a family member had said, I remember that. And then it was like, it just seemed like a little sort of flashpoint and it disappeared.
Dropped off the radar.
Yes, and I think, particularly in the university, it was deliberately forgotten. Willful forgetting. I talk about.
Yep.
It wasn't forgotten in the circles of Aotearoa and that movement. They always remembered it, but absolutely it was like put aside. Yeah.
So, what was your genesis with this project? So, you obviously made it as a piece of theatre first.
Yes.
When did you become aware of the incident, or had you always known about the incident and wanted to make something about it?
I was reading Rangiui Walker's book, Ka Whawhai Tonu Mātou, which is a fantastic read. It's a Māori POV of New Zealand history, and it mentions it in there. And it just was indelible. It was just like, well, this is kind of like, this is like violence. This is a really big deal. It's a clash between the two cultures. So I always sort of had it sort of I bottom drawed it in a way that it was just simmering down there as a story idea. I did try to get some, to maybe get it made through TV documentary many years ago, but it never got off the ground. And then when the Auckland Theatre Company gave me the opportunity to create a new work, I picked it up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so then at what point did you decide this has the leagues to become something beyond theatre, to move into the cinema space?
Well, I think would have to that goes to COVID actually, in that the theatre piece was very delayed during COVID, which it's a very interesting experience for me in terms of understanding that how much story and creativity is about time and place in terms of, the play was delayed. So by the time I picked it up again. It was like there was another way to tell the story. And then when we were in the big lockdown of 21, because to make the theatre piece, I had to film everybody. And I rang my editor and said, look, let's go and lock ourselves in a room and see if we can start throwing the story together in terms of film. So that was very much a lockdown project. Right. And I was very aware when I was making it, I was always asking that question, is it a film? Because it's very, very, it's very static in terms of like, it's just the people who, that's the premise of the film. If you're in that room that day, I want to hear from you. Yeah. So it's from there's no of my opinion in the film whatsoever. It's just, if you're in that room that day, you tell your truth. So I was always testing myself in terms of making that there was a cinematic conceit there for the film to carry, and that came with the more archive I found, all that beautiful film from the 1970s. Incredible. It's incredible, isn't it? That's
so revealing. So much of it is so revealing, almost in spite of itself.
Yes, I find it very poetic.
Yeah,
the street photography that was around in that time. The main interview of He Taua, which was for I think it's called Eyewitness. Was it Eyewitness? Maybe the program back in the day. That the only reason Ngā Taonga had that footage is someone had, I think, copied it either off the TV or off some source and had delivered that to Ngā Taonga. So it still had all the ad breaks, all the ads from the 90s, whatever that time was. So that, I only found that out very late. So it was because TVNZ destroyed so much of their film back in the day. They were just recording over stuff.
Right.
It was a real Taonga that it survived, that interview. Yeah.
I mean, I find it fascinating. You kind of touched on this. So much of the film is, as you say, interviews, sort of like just the person on the screen answering questions, which, in certain formats doesn't necessarily have this kind of cinematic feel. And yet, in this film, it's riveting. It's utterly like just watching. I think it's just because you place the camera and it's just naked truth, and it's just it's unfettered, unvarnished, and you manage to coax these kinds of revelations out of people that I don't think they're even aware that they're kind of arriving at. So, what was the process there? What was it like in those rooms, especially talking to people who were on, let's say, the less
the wrong side of history?
The wrong side of history, yeah.
Yeah. It's a very common question for me. When I was making the play, I had access to one interview from an engineer that was from the many years before when I tried to get off the ground as a TV project. I had that as a recording. But that was it. I had nothing else from the engineers. I had some names. So this was the very first workshop production that was going out. Now word must have got out somewhere, and the week before we opened the workshop, the receptionist at ATC came in and said, "There's someone on the phone who'd like to speak to you," and it's one of the engineer's wives, and she had run the Auckland Theatre Company and said, "I would really like my husband to talk about this." So off I hightailed out to St. Helier's, and I met with Karen first. We had a commonality. We're both from Taranaki. We talked a lot about being brought up in Taranaki. And Karen was really, she felt in herself that she knew her husband had been part or something, a really big part of New Zealand history, but had never got to talk about it. Then I went down and I met Ian. He was down in his boat shed, and I spoke to him. He was really nervous to speak.
Yeah.
And from there, I met them a few more times before we actually put them on camera, and it was very much I guess that I think they sensed from me that I wasn't coming in to make, I was going to want to blame anybody. I was very, very interested in what had happened to them that day, and I was interested in helping them understand what had happened because they never talked about it. There was something almost therapeutic about the interviews.
Well,
They were getting to
yeah.
really trying to articulate what they'd been through. And so I really treasure those interviews in terms of their candidacy and their honesty.
Yeah, well, that is fascinating. I mean, there is this feeling in there, with some of them at least, that there's like this desire to arrive at a place of peace, to actually be held accountable in themselves, which is really fascinating and kind of almost admirable in a sense, to be able to actually front up and say, I was part of this, I deeply regret it. And there's a generosity to the film that I think comes through.
And some of them don't regret it. Like Ian does say, I don't regret being part of it because they were part of a system. They were all 18 years old or 17. They were very young.
Very young.
They were all from Catholic boys' schools. I mean, there was a thing I found out later on. There were only men, white men in the department at that time. There were no women. There were Malaysian students that came in. But they had this incredibly sheltered view of the world, and it was a world that I remembered. I think that's really important, actually. I was 11 in 1979 and very cognizant, actually, of the world that I lived in.
Sure.
And so I had a sense that when I started digging around, like you see all the stuff from A Week of It and McPhail and Gatsby, all that really sort of that stuff wouldn't fly these days. But these engineers lived in they were just part of the society that we were in. Yeah.
So it's a reflection of the time.
Yeah.
So the film was largely independently produced, is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was that process like, kind of putting this together by yourself, I would say?
Really satisfying, actually. I found it really, because I produce my producing partner, Tim Barn. We have a production company, Tasman Ray. We produced the theatre tour that happened in 23. We've done a lot of producing in the past. That the idea that we keep the project moving forward inside that sort of production paradigm was really satisfying to me. I was really interested in getting a film off the ground, and not having to go through all the hoops and hoopla of trying to get a film made in this country, which is incredibly difficult. I was part of the Waru team, which was again another very sort of independently made film in terms, which is it was one of the highlight project for me, and being able to approach film and pretty much how I approach a lot of my theatre work, I guess, in terms of that the form actually informs the process. And so in terms of like being able to keep that the interviews were very organic and that there was a bouncing ball and I was able to do it over a long stretch of time. So that was really satisfying. Amazing support from a post-production house, Images and Sound, who I do a lot of television work through.
Love it.
So we love those guys. And so they were incredibly supportive. And then taking us through that post process. There's a lot of archive in the film. Archive's really expensive. And so balancing that to be able to afford that archive was really tricky. But then Radio New Zealand coming in as an acquisition afterwards, it was a really satisfying process.
So now it's in cinemas, and it feels like it's arriving at a time of renewed kind of discourse and tension and that kind of thing. And the relations between Māori and Pākehā. Obviously, we've got the Treaty Principles Bill, we've got the largest protest movement possibly in New Zealand history. The website for the submissions just went down.
I know. Talk about timing.
Yeah, so what do you make of that? And I guess what are your hopes for the part that this might play in that kind of.
Do you know what the thing that's always astonished me about that telling the story has been when I made the play, which is a piece of verbatim theatre, which I really enjoy. It's a really fantastic theatre form. After the play, everyone wants to talk about. You see people leave the play and they're just like in these deep discussions, walking away from the theatre. That for me, I was like, if people were talking about the incident, what it means to them, how it's relevant to them now, and so in a funny way, the film and the play become sort of something over here because the kaupapa overtakes it. But this is really, really positive in that I think there's a penny drop moment that do come for some Pākehā in terms of understanding where partnership comes from. And it's not threatening. It's actually just really clear and accessible as an idea. So that's been so I really hope that maybe if an audience does get in there, it's a real word of mouth project. It's a thing like the play, people come and tell people and book tickets. So hopefully that happens in the cinema. That we will see these conversations opening up, and then understanding that this idea of partnership, which does go back to the treaty, that it centers itself in understanding why this bill is absolutely inappropriate and needs to go. So there will be that. Hopefully, we'll be feeding back into that.
Well, if there's anything that you can take away from me, it's that this film is essential for New Zealanders to watch. So hopefully people get out there and see.
Yeah.
Talking about what's coming up in February, on Waitangi Day, we have the release of Alien Weaponry, the documentary film about the young Te Reo only metal band. Are you a big Alien Weaponry listener?
No, but I'm a big alien weaponry fan. So, they've always been astonishing. What an incredible medium to, hapai te reo. And so, and of course, Alien Weaponry played alongside us in the Festa, New Zealand International Festival. So it looks like a fantastic film.
Special place in your heart. I mean, it's I've seen the film and it's really, really wonderful. It's really entertaining. The thing that really struck me, the De Jong boys, who are the kind of frontmen of the band, are so young. Like at the beginning of the film, they are in their
That's right. So I saw a teenage band.
Now they're only like 21 and 19.
Oh my goodness.
Really young to be doing something that is historical, moving into a genre where this just hasn't happened before at such a young age.
And to them, I haven't seen the movie, but from the trailer I can glean that it was really, that was very apparent to them that they had to sing in te reo. Like it was this, that's what they were going to do.
And one of the things that's really lovely about the film is that it's a family affair, so the whole family is like around them and supporting them, and the mother and father of the boys are just as significant to the film as the boys themselves, and it's just a really beautiful kind of depiction of like life in Aotearoa, a young family that are making this awesome art. It's a really, really great film.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
The other trailer that we're talking about is Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy. So this is the third Bridget Jones film. Have you seen the other two?
I've seen the first one, and so like back in the day, read the book. We all loved the book. It was kind of sort of like the first.
Helen Fielding?
Yes, and it was kind of like the first sort of like chick lit, or whatever they used to call it, or this really young female-centric sort of quirky literature. I remember at the time, and then the film was just so successful.
That first film is a really fun film to revisit. I mean, the interplay of
There's just such clever scenes and
Renee Zellweger with Colin Firth and Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
That love triangle is just very satisfying, and honestly, it's probably my favorite of Renee Zellweger's performances. So there's I'm excited to see where they're going with this one. Now, this is also based on a Bridget Jones book. One of the big controversies is that Colin Firth's character has passed away.
Right. Yes.
So it's going to be
But it's not in the book.
It's not in the book?
I don't know.
I think it is in the book.
Right. Yeah.
I think because it's being reintroduced and filmed for a new audience is aware of it. So
Yeah.
I must say, I mean, I was a little bit like, oh, I don't know, because that triangle is so significant to what it was, but you have to be.
It's like in Just Like That, they kill Mr. Big in the very first episode when he comes back. But you're like, oh, then you go, it's a pretty good device.
Yeah, it works. It works. So yeah, I think it's pushing the story forward. So that's always a good thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens. There's new love interest played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. So that's cool. Hugh Grant shows up. I don't know how much of it he's actually going to be in, but that one I think is going to be a pretty raging success.
Yes.
Because it's one of those titles that has a lot of love, a lot of affection from back.
I think it may get the people that used to go to the cinema might come back for Bridget Jones. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
So it comes out the day before Valentine's Day.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Coming up also in February, we have
what are they called? Galentine's Day?
Galentine's
Day or something. They make Valentine's Day
into
Galentine's Day.
You could definitely do a Galentine's Day trip to Bridget Jones. It would be great. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
Coming up in cinemas in February, also we have a range of all sorts of different kinds of films. Some of the kind of holdovers from Oscar season. One of the big ones is I'm Still Here. Now, this is a Brazilian film. Fernanda Torres, who's the actress in I'm Still Here, kind of shocked the awards prognosticators by winning Best Actress at the Golden Globes for drama against some pretty heavy hitters. Now, this is a film about a woman struggling with the disappearance of her husband during Brazil's 1960s military dictatorship. It looks like a very, very powerful, very effective drama. We've also got Bird, which is one that was here as part of the British and Irish Film Festival, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. One of my favourite films of last year. It is from Andrea Arnold, the director of Fish Tank and American Honey. She's a great director of British realism. This one is a little bit different. It definitely is still kind of rooted in working class Britain, as many of her films are. It's about a young girl who is kind of growing up in the very much like the wrong side of tracks part of Britain. Her young father, played by Barry Keoghan, is well-meaning but a little bit of a lunkhead, and she runs into a mysterious kind of figure named Bird, played by Franz Rogowski, who's an amazing German actor, I believe, and it kind of builds into this very interesting, almost magical realist drama. It's a very, very powerful film. It doesn't go where you think it's going to go, and there's lots of really classic kind of moments of kind of spontaneous working class joy in there as well, which is always a big part of her films. So that's a really, really great film, worth watching.
Mike Lee's got a new film coming out this year.
Hard Truth.
Yes,
that was also at the festival. I loved Hard Truth.
I'm a massive fan of Mike, and but it sounds Bird sounds like it's in that same sort of
Adriano kind of has picked up the mantle of that kind of kitchen sink British realism that he maybe helped to start, but it's awesome that he's still making films as well.
Right.
Hard Truth, incredible film.
Can't wait.
On the more blockbuster side of things, we've got Captain America New World Order. Now, this also drops on the 13th of Feb. This is the newest Captain America film. Captain America is now played by Anthony Mackie, who was the Falcon in the earlier Marvel films. This one is interesting because it is the first major Marvel film since the big flop of the Marvels in 2022, 23. Obviously there was Deadpool and Wolverine last year, but that one was kind of sort of outside of the usual circle of these sorts of things. This one is picking up the story again. There has been a pretty significant kind of cultural drop in interest in these films, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one holds together. It's been delayed several times. There's been reshoots on reshoots on reshoots. Who knows what we're going to get. But it does have Harrison Ford in it, so that is valuable.
I've never really done the Marvel world, I'll be very honest with you. So where are we up to in the Marvel world? Like sort of...
Very deep. We are very deep in the Marvel world. And there have been highs and lows. And I think you would describe it as being in a pretty deep low at the moment. So whether they can build back at all, I mean, we'll see. But the trailers for this hadn't necessarily been super promising. But, I will probably still be seated. I'll probably be watching it. The Monkey is a horror film. Now, this one is from the director of Long Legs, Anthony Perkins. No, that's Oswald Perkins. Anthony Perkins is his grandfather, I think, who was in Psycho. Oswald Perkins, who made Long Legs. Did you see Long Legs?
No.
Not a horror fan?
No.
I
did watch The Substance the other night.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, my God. But when I was watching it, I was like, I wonder if it was influenced by Braindead.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And the sounds they make with all the, the needles going into stuff. So I went and asked old AI, is The Substance influenced by Braindead? Yes, it is. According to AI, but who knows?
Yeah, no, you can never really tell with AI, but I think I can definitely see the through line in that splatter genre.
Yeah.
Long Legs, also a really great horror film from last year. Well, it's kind of, it's deeply scary, but it's like it's kind of like Silence of the Lambs or something like that. And it showed a really promising talent from Oswald Perkins. The Monkey is adapted from Stephen King's short story, which I haven't read, but it looks like it's a whole bunch of violent deaths that are kind of like in a Final Destination kind of way, that goes to some very twisted places. So that's going to be interesting. On the 27th of February, we have Maki Magasiva's Tina.
Yes, Maki Magasiva's Tina, which looks amazing.
It has a very powerful trailer.
Yeah, very, very, really pulls at the heartstrings. There's a teacher who loses, which is played by the brilliant Annapala. I've got to make sure I say Annapala's name correctly. Paula Taival, and she's an incredible New Zealand actress, very well known in theatre circles. And I think she plays a mother who loses her daughter in the Christchurch earthquakes, and ends up in a very posh Christchurch, I think, high school, teaching choir.
Yeah.
So it looks like a classic, heartfelt, heartwarming movie led out by the incredible Annapala. So
how awesome is it that she's getting a moment with this kind of lead role?
Yes.
And from what I've heard, it's a very powerful film.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that one. Last two I'll mention, September 5th is out on Waitangi Day, and it's about the Munich hostage crisis of the 70s. And Love Hurts, which is kind of in the vein of Nobody and John Wick. It's got Kei Kwan from Everything Everywhere All at Once in a kind of action role. So there's a lot to look forward to this month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 2025, it's a new year, and that means that there are new films in the pipeline. There's a lot that we can look forward to this year. A lot of really major filmmakers are flexing their muscles and getting new films out there. I'm interested what you're anticipating coming up.
Probably my number one would be the Bob Dylan film with Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
What's it called? The
Complete Unknown.
Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
And that apparently Timothy is just out the gate. And and I love a biopic. They're my favourite. So my second film, which I'm really looking forward to, is the one about Maria Callas with
I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's very good. I really, really enjoyed it. And
Because there's an amazing doco on her that came out maybe 2 years ago, which is all this found footage of Maria, and it's just mesmerizing. It's one of those movies I sort of have when I'm writing or something, like just have sort of playing over and over in my office, because it's just the footage they found of her is just extraordinary. So I'm really looking forward to the
I mean, it's from
narrative film.
it's from Pablo Larraín, who also did Jackie and Spencer. So he is third in this kind of little trilogy about the big divas. It's Angelina Jolie in the lead role, and she's really, really strong. And I actually didn't know much about Maria Callas.
I know a lot about it. I'm
so I'll be interested to know. Yeah, I'll be interested to know what a big fan of hers will take away from it. But I found it to be a quite kind-hearted film. Like it's a film that's very drenched in sadness, but it's immaculate, beautiful looking, as we've come to expect from this director.
He's amazing, isn't he? Gosh.
Yeah, but there's something about it that I found quite kind of moving and intoxicating, and also quite kind-hearted, as I say. I haven't seen Anything I Don't Know, but I Dylan fan, so I'm going to be interested to see how his life fits into that biopic kind of treatment. So I have been looking a little further afield in terms of films that I'm most anticipating this year. First is a film called Die My Love. It's from Lynn Ramsey, who is an incredible filmmaker. She's made films like Ratcatcher, We Need to Talk About Kevin, or The Keller. Her new film has Jennifer Lawrence, and it's about a housewife who's starting to kind of unravel. And there's not much detail beyond that we know, but the thing that draws me to it is the presence of Lynn Ramsey. She only makes films very rarely. Like
she's such a master.
And very meticulous. Takes a long time to put out new films. So every time that we get a new one, it's something to treasure and to be excited.
Oh, that's going on my list.
The next one is from Park Chan-wook. It's called No Other Choice. We've got a poster for this, but that's it. It's, again, a filmmaker. Because it's the filmmaker, I'm interested in seeing the film. Park Chan-wook obviously made Old Boy, The Handmaiden. His most recent was Decision to Leave. So I'll be very interested to see. It sounds like it's another kind of thriller. He is just a very... he always makes a fascinating choice. And so that's always something to look out for. It's a new Park Chan-wook film. The next one I have here is one that we may or may not receive this year. The reason I say that is that it's from Terrence Malick of Badlands, That Refine, Tree of Life, etc. It's called The Way of the Wind, and it has been in post-production for 6 years. And that's because Terrence Malick does not do anything quickly. He is very kind of a tinkerer, and everyone who knows his kind of directorial process knows that a lot gets thrown out. A lot of it's kind of a moving thing at all times. This one is about the life of Jesus. And the thing about Malick is that all his films are reflected with this kind of Christian iconography and ideas. So it's going to be interesting to see him tackle the actual story of
how absolutely fascinating.
Jesus.
What's the title?
It's called The Way of the Wind.
Oh, I can't wait. That's gone my list.
He's been working on it since the 70s.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm very interested to see what that comes of.
Yeah.
I have Highest to Lowest, which is the new Spike Lee joint. I am a huge Spike Lee fan. And his last film, The Five Bloods, which is on Netflix, highly recommend it. Amazing film. This one is a remake of the Kurosawa film High and Low, which is about a businessman who gets embroiled in this kind of hostage situation. And it's got Denzel Washington in the lead. And I think just the opportunity to see Spike Lee, whose style is very different from Kurosawa, tackle this Kurosawa film and have a new updated version of this classic. I am there day one. Cannot wait.
Sounds great.
The last one I have is a little bit more mainstream. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. I love the Mission Impossible films. Of all the blockbusters, those are the ones that I go to bat for. I will always...
And Tom's right in there.
Tom's right in there. And we don't know what the big stunt is this time, but there is surely going to be one.
He did all by himself.
He does it all by himself. The last one, Dead Reckoning, was really, really fun. And really, really well put together. So I'm really excited to see how the story wraps up. It is reportedly the final Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, so we will see what happens there. But
lots of throwbacks, isn't there? Like actor throwbacks, director throwbacks. It's fascinating.
And some
like with the Bridget Jones throwback.
Yeah, absolutely. And some really classical directors kind of coming back for another band. So there's a lot to look forward to this year.
And making movies for the movies, I guess, like having a real understanding of what it is to put it into that space.
Yeah,
because that's the big, the challenge that we face as filmmakers is getting people into cinemas. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
So, I highly recommend everyone does that, but goes and sees these kinds of films. Absolutely. Just to quickly touch on what's showing on streaming this month, we have on Apple TV Plus an interesting, kind of mysterious looking film called The Gorge. Two hot young stars, Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy of Furiosa. They play two guards posted on opposite sides in two guard towers on opposite sides of a mysterious misty gorge. No one knows what is down there, and there's a lot of mystery kind of shrouded in this film, so it's going to be interesting. It looks like a little bit of like a love story / blockbuster sci-fi action. The other big thing coming to Prime Video this month is the third season of Reacher, obviously based on the Jack Reacher books. This one, if you're a fan of the show, it looks like a little bit of more of the same, but that's always enjoyable. One of the big kind of calling cards for this season is that obviously the character of Jack Reacher is this giant hulking kind of beast man, and it looks like he's going out to get someone even more giant and more hulking than before. So that is going to be the big clash of this season of Reacher. Katie, I'm really, really thankful that you came in today. As I say, I'm a huge fan of this film. I really hope that people get out there and watch it. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks, Tom. And something I've just learned is that, say, if you're wherever you are in Aotearoa, if your local cinema hasn't got the movie on, bring them up.
Ask for
it, and so the distributors really they take note of that. So if it's not there, give them a call and they'll get the movie in.
I think like this film would be really valuable to be watched in kind of rural, smaller towns, that kind of thing. So at the moment, the Haka Party Incident is showing in screens nationwide, but it could always show on more screens. So please get out there and see it, or ask for it in your cinema.
Kia ora, Tom.
You got it. Rialto this February, we have the exclusive series premiere of Best Interests. This is a BAFTA nominee coming to you on the 25th of February. It's a really, really powerful series. It stars the great Sharon Horgan, who's more known as a comedy actress, I guess in recent times. She was in Bad Sisters and also Catastrophe, which is one of my favorite series. This is a bit of a different kind of role for her. She stars alongside the also excellent Michael Sheen as a pair of parents who are fighting for proper care for their daughter who is diagnosed at a young age with a particular kind of muscular dystrophy. It is a very powerful, very affecting series, very gripping, with two just titanic actors tackling some very meaty topics. So please come along and check it out. If you want to find out more about it, go behind the scenes of Best Interest on Rialto Channel's YouTube page. You can find out more about the series and get a little peek into what was going on in the making of the show. we've got a few giveaways for you. Obviously, this month is Valentine's Day, 14th of February. The good folks at Devonport Chocolates have put together a very cool prize pack for you, and the special one in your life, or it could be a Galentine's Day gift, as Katie said. Head on over to viewmag.co.nz. We're also giving away a double pass to a film that will be revealed imminently, so head on over and check it out. Also on ViewMag, I just want to remind you that the best of 2024, 40 of my favourite films from the last year, dropped last month. If you haven't read it yet, check it out so that you can have the lowdown on all the very best films that you can watch from last year. That's all from us today at Point of View. Thank you so much for listening. Ka kite.